This is the Microschool Minute, your weekly dose of microschooling news and events.
In this week's edition of the Microschool Minute, big moves in school choice happening across the nation. Here are the major developments. The Texas Senate has approved Senate Bill No. 2, a major school choice proposal creating education savings accounts that would provide $10,000 per student in state funds for private school tuition, plus an additional $1,500 for students with disabilities. The bill, designated an emergency item by Governor Greg Abbott, is projected to cost $1 billion and is finally headed to the Texas House, where similar efforts were defeated back in 2023. The bill has drawn both praise and concern regarding its potential impact on minority students. Senator Creighton countered, stating the program would help students escape being trapped by zip code. The bill's fate remains uncertain in the Texas House, despite strong backing from Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Governor Abbott, who has actively campaigned against Republican lawmakers opposed to school choice. All eyes are now on the Texas House to see whether school choice becomes a reality in Texas. Tennessee is also making waves with the Education Freedom Act. The legislation was officially signed into law this week, set to have a notable impact on the growth of microschools in the region. The landmark program will provide 20,000 scholarships, each worth up to $7,000, to help families pay for private school tuition. Half of these scholarships are reserved for low-income students and those with disabilities, making a significant push for educational access. Over time, the program will expand to offer universal eligibility. Governor Bill Lee is calling this a historic step forward. A new education savings account program is under consideration in North Dakota. North Dakota's House Bill 1472 is a proposal that could redefine how small, innovative microschools operate in the state. North Dakota is currently one of the most restrictive states for private schools. Without reform, many families will miss out on the flexibility and personalized learning that microschools can offer. House Bill 1472 aims to change this by easing regulations and allowing these small learning environments to thrive while staying affordable. Teachers' unions and rural legislators express worries about how the program might drain resources from smaller public districts. Don Soifer of the National Microschooling Center took to the podium this week to provide testimony to the growing research surrounding the multifaceted benefits of microschooling, providing examples from across the nation, including firsthand experience. What's next? Public hearings and more debate as supporters push for greater educational choice across the state. Next door in South Dakota, two competing school choice bills failed in the House Education Committee. Governor-backed legislation proposed $3,000 per student for private tuition or homeschooling, while Representative Dylan Jordan's $142 million proposal aimed higher financially, but faced scrutiny. Republican leaders are planning procedural moves to bring the issue back to the House floor. Over in West Virginia, lawmakers want to expand the Hope Scholarship Program, removing enrollment restrictions to make every student eligible. Supporters argue this provides families more freedom, while teacher unions voice concerns about its long-term impact on public schools. The debate continues as legislatures weigh the benefits of universal accessibility against potential risk to public funding. Tuesday was anything but ordinary at the Mississippi House Education Committee. Packed with school superintendents and education advocates, the room buzzed with tension as lawmakers debated the controversial House Bill 1433, the Flexible and Rightful Education Enrollment Act. At the heart of the discussion, a bold proposal to let students in low-performing public schools use state education funds to switch to higher-rated public or private schools. Supporters describe the bill as a lifeline for families in struggling districts, giving them an opportunity to break free from underperforming schools. Chairman Rob Robertson defended the bill passionately, emphasizing the need to keep the conversation going on school choice. At the national level, what happens when federal policy intersects with sports, identity, and fairness? President Donald Trump's recent executive order has addressed that question. The order bars certain students from competing on female sports teams in schools that receive federal funding. It directs the United States Department of Education to enforce Title IX-based biological gender, a move that supporters argue protects the integrity of women's sports. This decision could have far-reaching implications for schools across the country, from eligibility rules to funding penalties. This comes as the Trump administration moves to expand school choice nationwide. President Donald Trump signed an executive order last Wednesday, prioritizing school choice by directing federal agencies to free up funding for educational savings accounts, vouchers, and other school choice programs. The order instructs the United States Department of Education to prioritize discretionary grants for school choice initiatives and to issue guidance within 60 days on how states can use federal formula funds to support K-12 choice programs. Did you know that 40% of 4th graders are now scoring below basic in reading? That's the alarming data from the most recent National Assessment of Educational Progress report. And it's not just about numbers, it's about real kids falling behind. Chronic absenteeism is another storm that's brewing, with 28% of students nationwide missing school regularly. When kids aren't in the classroom, they miss critical learning opportunities, social connections, and any chance of catching up. So what does this mean? For schools, it's about figuring out how to better allocate federal recovery funds, and for parents, it means advocating for targeted, effective support. High-impact tutoring programs are now emerging as a beacon of progress. Research from the Annenberg Institute shows that one-on-one tutoring not only helps academically, but also reduces absenteeism, a win-win as far as we're concerned. Schools incorporating tutoring into the regular school day saw students attend 1.3 more days per year on average. Small changes, big impact. Good news for the charter school world. S&P Global Ratings predicts a stable outlook for 2025. Despite economic uncertainties and the expiration of federal COVID-19 relief funds, charter schools are holding steady. Many are even expanding while maintaining healthy liquidity and operating margins. Enrollment tells an interesting story as well. Over the past 5 years, demand for charter schools has surged, with an 11.7% enrollment increase from fall 2019 to fall 2024. Meanwhile, traditional public schools have seen a 3.9% drop in enrollment during the same period. What really happened to homeschooling during the pandemic? The numbers tell a fascinating story. Angela Watson's groundbreaking study dives into participation trends from 2019 to 2024, and the data paints a dynamic picture. Before the pandemic, homeschooling participation in the United States hovered an estimated 2.8% of K-12 students. Then, 2020 flipped the script. At the height of the pandemic's schooling disruption in 2021, 21% of parents reported their children were being homeschooled, according to the Census Bureau. But this wasn't the new normal, just the peak of a chaotic time. By 2022-2023 school year, numbers settled at 6% of all students, and that rate has held steady ever since. While self-reported data can be messy, especially when parents' definitions of homeschooling may vary, combining these national figures with state-specific trends helps to provide a much-needed reality check. The big takeaway? Homeschooling isn't just a pandemic-era trend. It's evolving into a lasting part of America's new educational landscape. Could nature be the missing piece in early childhood education? That's the question fueling the efforts of the newly launched Outdoor and Nature-Based Early Care and Education Collaborative. With a mission to connect young children to the outdoors while shaping smarter education policies, this initiative is bringing together cross-sector leaders to make a big impact. During a recent roundtable in Washington, D.C., hosted by the Children in Nature Network and the National League of Cities, participants dove into action-oriented discussions. Their goal? To create state and national policies that expand access to nature-based early education programs. Key ideas shared at the roundtable included introducing incentives for schools and early care providers to incorporate outdoor learning, prioritizing funding for inclusive nature-designed play spaces, and supporting educators with resources to help blend outdoor activities into their curriculums. This is about more than playtime, said David Beard, Director of Policy and Government Affairs for the Children in Nature Network. It's about shaping healthier bodies, stronger minds, and more resilient communities. This week, we turn our attention to a fuller education, a microschool in Garnett County, Pennsylvania, that's dedicated to inspiring a love of learning in children and empowering parents to guide their education. Founded by Joanna Cervantes, a seasoned educator with over 10 years of experience teaching students from preschool to high school in public, charter, and private settings, the microschool reflects her passion for reimagining education. Cervantes' background includes 5 years coaching teachers and administrators with the UCLA Math Project and over 3 years developing and teaching STEM curriculum. As a mother of 3, Cervantes brings both professional expertise and personal experience to a fuller education. Her goal is to create a joyful learning community where children thrive. If you know of a microschool that deserves a shout out, drop a comment and let us know about the work that they're doing. Thank you for tuning in to the Microschool Minute, your weekly review of microschooling news and events. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to support us, consider leaving a review. Until next week, happy microschooling.